I'm Dory Tempio, and I work with ABLE South Carolina. Today we're going to talk about how to work with Department of Social Services clients who happen to have disabilities. It is valuable to keep in mind that all South Carolina Department of Social Services clients are unique and should be noted for what they are capable of doing. All of us as service providers can benefit when encouraging clients with disabilities to be independent and active partners in receiving Department of Social Services services. When asked about working with individuals with disabilities, Ed Roberts, the father of the disability rights movement and the independent living movement, once said, "Instead of saying we need to take care of people with disabilities, let's teach them to take care of themselves." For years, people with disabilities were viewed as victims, burdens to society, or just helpless. Today, individuals with disabilities are successful, contributing members of the community. The disability rights movement made the obstacles faced by people with disabilities visible to the public. For years, there was the belief of out of sight, out of mind. The segregation of people with disabilities was often encouraged. With the disability rights movement, led by people with disabilities, individuals worked to make community services accessible to all people. With the hard work of many, the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law over 25 years ago on July 26, 1990. As of 2010, there were 56 million Americans with disabilities, according to the U.S. Census. In that 56 million, 1 in 10 people have significant disabilities which impact their major life activities. When we break that statistic down further, 1 in 5 South Carolinians has a disability, which means that all of us may very well come into contact with an individual who happens to have a disability. We may also know them personally as a friend or family member. People with disabilities are first and foremost people. They have dreams, desires, and goals to live independently. Many of them want to be parents, have housing, and live independently in the community. All of us as service providers can help foster individuals with disabilities taking an active role in the community. As service providers through the Department of Social Services, we need to de-emphasize discrimination and offer more opportunities to our clients by removing hurtful language. Words really do matter. The disability community and the National Organization on Disability have developed what they call preferred person-first terminology. It's also called person-first language. It eradicates generalizations and stereotypes by focusing on the person rather than their disability. As the term implies, it refers to the person first and the disability second. For example, rather than saying special needs children, it is better to say children with disabilities so that you can focus on the individual and not their disability. Clients with disabilities can make great parents, just as clients without disabilities do. Parenting with a disability may require using different tools or accommodations to carry out everyday tasks. These can include an accessible crib, a visual baby monitor, or even bump dot labeled items. All of us, with or without disabilities, use different techniques to raise our children. It's how we personalize these strategies that makes their use successful for each family. Some of the biggest barriers for people with disabilities are negative perceptions. Attitude can be the biggest obstacle for individuals with disabilities wanting to participate in community life. Having a disability is just finding a new way to do an everyday activity. It requires using creative thinking and finding the best method for completing a task. Independent living can involve anything from using specially adapted equipment, utilizing different methods to teach a skill, and trying new, innovative approaches to living everyday life. Architectural barriers can exist for clients with disabilities in our workplaces and buildings. Some of these barriers can include doorways, small aisles, plants, brochure holders, or even workstations. We can determine if our offices and services are accessible to clients with disabilities. Examples include making sure that public meeting spaces are accessible to everyone. Signs and doors have raised lettering in Braille, And fire alarms utilize flashing lights for individuals who are deaf. There is a fine line between empowering and enabling DSS clients with disabilities. Enabling means putting yourself between clients and their life experiences to minimize the consequences of their choices. This includes overprotecting clients, lecturing them on their decisions, or trying to fix a problem for them. Empowering means giving options to clients so that they can make decisions and be independent. This includes acknowledging the client's right to privacy, expressing limitations as to what you can do to assist them, and listening to the client without fixing, discounting, or judging their decisions. When we empower clients with disabilities, we teach them to properly access accommodations and resources. We teach them to learn from their mistakes and obtain skills that will allow them to have control over their lives with a positive self-image. While we may interpret program accessibility to mean physical accessibility issues, and it does, it is important to also consider other types of accessibility issues. When determining whether or not your services are accessible to clients with disabilities, there are several points you should consider. For example, you can ask if your materials are available in alternative formats, or if your front desk staff are able to communicate with walk-ins who are deaf or happen to speak another language. We all want to help others. It's only natural. If you are entering a building and there's someone behind you, it's polite to offer to hold the door for them, whether or not they have a disability. When it comes to offering help to an individual with a disability with a difficult task, it's best to ask the individual if he or she would like assistance. You should allow the person to tell you how you can help. Not only is this respectful, but you may find that the help they need is unlike what you had envisioned. Many individuals with disabilities also use service dogs. There are strategies available to help us work with clients who may have an assistance dog with them. First, make sure any no pets policies will allow service animals in the workplace. Secondly, always ask before touching a service animal because they are there to assist an individual with a disability and they are working. Third, generally do not pet or distract a working service animal, and you should not offer food or treats to them. If the service animal is focused on you, then they will not be able to do their job and someone could accidentally get hurt. ABLE South Carolina is a resource center for independent living. It is a community-based, cross-disability, nonprofit organization that is designed and operated by people with disabilities. More than 51% of our staff and board members have a disability. ABLE South Carolina assists individuals in the community by supporting the independent living philosophy, which states that individuals with disabilities can make their own choices, be held to the same expectations as individuals without disabilities, and succeed with self-created goals. Grievance procedures set out a system for resolving complaints of disability discrimination in a prompt and fair manner. The grievance procedures should include a description of how and where a complaint under Title II may be filed with the government entity. If a written complaint is required, a statement notifying potential complaints that alternative means of filing will be available to people with disabilities who require such an alternative, a description of the timeframes and processes to be followed by the complaint and the government entity, information on how to file an appeal and adverse decision, and a statement of how long complaint files will be retained.